Welcome back to the Greatest Storyteller podcast. I'm Omari, and I am the narrator of random, extremely exaggerated, embellished stories that are based off of true life experiences. Today's story is titled Dating Unemployed. I'm a single woman who's been on this dating journey for some time now. Like my last real relationship, in quotations, was back in 2019. More on that story, but for another episode. Anyway, following the relationship, I had decided to take a small break, but, knowing I really wanted to get back into the dating scene. So the following year, right before the COVID pandemic, I started my dating journey. I was attending different social functions. I was hanging out with friends who had friends. I was doing all of the things. Then, bam, COVID took over. The country was in lockdown mode. And there were no more social events, no more friends of friends and their parties, no more hanging out, none of the things that I was doing to get into the dating scene. Now, you probably would think, okay, listen, here are the current state of affairs. The world is on lockdown, and how are you going to meet anybody? Well, at this point, I was not deterred one way or the other. I was dedicated to wanting to pursue a relationship. I really believe 2020, like every other year before it, was my year. This is my year of promise and relationships. I know I've been single for however many months, but this is my year. So yeah, I just knew I was going to come across the path of my king, my protector, my provider, my comforter, my rib. I will not be deterred. But that never happened. You see, my dating life was now regulated to online apps with an eclectic mix of men, bogus promises, and shallow requests. But again, I really, really, really wanted to believe that my Mr. Forever was just around the river bend. Like he existed and we're going to find each other. Anyway, time goes on. I've been on multiple dating sites. I dated virtually, believe it or not, during the pandemic. But as you can imagine, nothing fruitful transpired. By a certain time, I had eventually became unemployed, which kind of shifted the landscape of my dating journey. But honestly, I felt like, I didn't want to accept the fact that because of my employment status, I wasn't meant to have the man of my dreams. I mean, I just assumed guys, didn't care whether the female is employed and or making money. That stuff doesn't matter to them, right? Or at least that's what a well-known YouTuber espoused at one point. I digress. I wasn't so much looking for anything in particular or anything extravagant in the man. I wasn't asking for much when it came down to the man I was pursuing. So I continued on my journey to finding love. The guys I was most interested in, they're smart, they're geeky, they're loving, family oriented, spiritual, financially stable, for their financial circumstances, right? Like you didn't have to be the 1%. You didn't have to be in the top tier. As long as you were making money and it worked for you, it was all good. That's it. I didn't care if the man was white, black, brown, or orange. I didn't care if he stood 5'6" or 6 foot tall. I just wanted to believe that the simple things that were driving me to a relationship, they would eventually happen. Okay. Well, I am on a really popular dating app and I come across this guy, Arnold. He's much older than me, brown skin, 5'9", a little stocky, but no kids, no wife. He said in his profile that he had an engineering background, which turned out to be true once we started to engage. He was looking for a long-term relationship. In my mind, he seemed like a decent catch. So I liked his profile, and he subsequently liked me, and we're a match. So we started to exchange messages through the dating app, and we were asking, usual questions. Where are you originally from? What do you like to do for fun? What's your favorite color? You know, all the real stuff grown-ups ask when they're trying to get to know somebody. So anyway, after so many messages, we had decided, hey, let's exchange numbers. We could do more verbal conversing versus texting through the app. So I gave him my number, and he calls me. Instantly, I noticed his mellow tone voice. It wasn't like super deep, but it was deep enough where, made me feel like, okay, the little man's man. Throughout our conversation, he appeared to be articulate, well-mannered. He would, allow for me to speak first, ask all of my non-pressing questions. And then it became his turn to ask me questions. And I was cool with it. They were questions that weren't previously asked when we were exchanging text messages through the dating app. So all good. And the questions started off simple, like, do you live in the city or do you live in the suburbs? Do you have family here locally, or are they back home where you're originally from? So on and so forth, things of that nature. Then the coveted question came up. What do you do for a living? Now, I figured this question would come up at some point, and I knew I was going to answer it truthfully. One, I'm a horrible liar. And then two, I really want the guy to make an informed decision. At the time, I wasn't working for various reasons. And quite frankly, I really just needed a break from the corporate politics, the corporate way of doing things. I just needed a break from corporate. Anyway, knowing this, there was still some trepidation, right, on my end, because one, I didn't want to be judged for not being employed. There was valid reasons for why I chose to walk away from my job. And emphasis on my decision to leave corporate. I wasn't fired. I wasn't laid off. Nothing egregious happened. It was just I needed a break. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter the why. I was just unemployed, and I knew that I owed him an honest answer. So I went on and I told the truth. I said, in full transparency, I'm not working at the moment, but, I'm doing okay financially, and, all is well. And then I went on to tell him, and I totally understand. If you're not comfortable with moving forward with me, given my current employment status, I get it. But I just wanted to be honest about my situation. There was a little pause, and then he said he was fine. He was okay with keeping the conversation going. So I didn't think anything of it. We kept the conversation moving, and during the same call, at one point in the discussion, I had asked him if he commonly dated younger women. Now, for context, he was about 12 years older than me. I like dating older men. That's always been my thing. And I just wanted to see where his mind was with dating someone who's younger than him. So he explains to me, yeah, I've dated younger women before, but a lot of them are looking for sugar daddies. I said, sugar daddies? He says, yeah, a sugar daddy, and that ain't me. I said, well, all right. And then we moved along in the conversation. There was nothing to it. It was like he had interesting dating experiences. People wanted him to fund their lives. I guess that's the whole purpose of a sugar daddy. But that was it. It was fleeting thoughts, and we kept it pushing. So by this time, a few hours had passed, and it was getting late. Now, I personally didn't have anywhere to go because, I'm unemployed. But I knew his old ass had to get up, and I'm sure he needed rest. So I said, hey, it's getting late. You want to connect another time so that you could at least get some rest? He agreed and we ended the conversation. Perfect. The After that, we continued to talk and text, just checking in, making sure each of us were still showing continued interest in each other. Then on a Thursday morning, gosh, it had to be like around 10 a.m. I get this text from Arnold saying, "Good morning. What you up to?" I replied to the text, "Morning. I'm just laying around, relaxing." And maybe about 5 minutes later, Arnold decides to send me a text that said nothing but FYI, dot, dot, dot. And then there was a link to a job fair. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Was I just told in not so many words that I need to attend a job fair? Like, is he implying that me relaxing at 10 a.m. as an unemployed woman was not a good thing? And by the way, not him just implying that I need to attend a job fair, but a job fair that's in a totally different county, that's an hour and some change from my primary home. But here's the crazy part. I then proceed to click on the actual link that he sent me just for kicks and giggles so I can get a little bit more information because, what is this that you're sending me? And of course, the damn thing was inoperable. The link didn't even fucking work. So not only are you low-key telling me to get a job, go to a job fair far from my home, but you send me a non-functional link. What? And to think, this dummy works for a company in an IT capacity, but couldn't even send me a fucking working link. No problem. It is what it is. That is what it came down to. So now at this point, I'm debating on if I should respond. And if I respond, what does my response look like? Well, I had decided I'm going to respond because his insinuating that I need to attend a job fair, it just bothered me. So I texted him back, but it was like 15 minutes later, and I asked, "Why did you send me the job fair link?" And he replies, "I was just trying to be helpful. That's all." Now pause. I never told this gal having bitch that I needed help finding a job. I never lamented to him about me being financially strapped. I never once implied or suggested that he fund my life. But he thought it to be judicious to send me a non-working job fair link. Get the fuck out of here. Are you crazy? But I didn't want to share all of that with him, even though that's exactly what I was thinking. So I didn't respond. Quite frankly, I just left his message on read, and I decided that I just don't want to continue conversation on any level with him. Truth be told, my feelings were wrapped up. I mean, I was a little offended, a little hurt, and the very thing that I was afraid of happening to me happened to me. I felt judged. And fine. You're probably saying he wasn't judging you, and maybe he wasn't judging me, but damn it, that's how I felt. Anyway, a few weeks went by and there was no conversation whatsoever between the two of us. And then out of nowhere, Arnold texts me, and it was innocent. It was him simply saying, "Hi, how you doing?" And well, I mean, I'm not a total bitch. So I responded and I told him I was doing well. And then he had proceeded to ask me on a date. Now, I have to admit, I was a little shocked by the request, but I went with it, right? He went out his way to reach out to me. He asked me on a date. He was planning everything. Quite frankly, all I had to do was show up. And that's exactly what I did. So the date is finally here. And that night, y'all, I look good. I mean, I like to think I look good anytime I go on a date, but that night, I intentionally went for the fresh out of bed at the good dick look. Like, I looked good. And listen, if you know, you know. Anyway, We're at the restaurant. He guides me along to our table, following the server. He pulls out my chair, helps me take off my coat. He helps me into my seat, unfolds my napkin, place it in my lap, all to make sure I was set and settled and ready for dinner. So I'm thinking a true gentleman, very chivalrous, exactly the things I like in a man. So we started talking a little. We then ordered our food, and then we talked a little more. I wanted to make sure anything I was going to indulge in, it was like, quite frankly, our date was a little later in the evening than I had preferred. So I didn't want to eat a ton, and plus I really wasn't hungry. So our food comes out, we eat, we talk a little more, and then he brings up my job search. I immediately go back in my memory bank just to recall the text exchange about my job search efforts just a couple of weeks ago. And of course, I remember his poor attempt to making a recommendation. And I got to tell you, in any other circumstance, I would have shut down the topic, but I decided I would indulge him with a response. And I tell him, I'm still searching. It hasn't been easy, but I'm remaining positive about the matter and hopeful that I'm going to get a job soon. He then says, well, I know a recruiter, and they're really good. They can help you find a good job. I could give you her number if you're looking to partner with somebody. I say, yeah, I'm totally open to that. And then after that, we moved on in the conversation. Everything is cool. The date comes to an end. He pays for our meal, helped me out my seat, helped me put on my jacket, and then escorted me out the restaurant to my car. He then proceeds to tell me he enjoyed himself and he wanted to stay in contact. I was like, fine, just given how the night went, I was cool with it. I hugged him, didn't kiss him, didn't do anything crazy, just a friendly hug, got in my car and drove off back to my home. The next day, Arnold texts me in the morning with nice pleasantries. He tells me again he enjoyed our time together and follows through on sharing his recruiter's contact information. I then expressed my gratitude and confirmed with him that I would reach out to her later that day because I was tussling with some other things and couldn't contact her at the moment. So he responds back, good, I'm glad I could help. So I then sent him a smiley face emoji, and without fail, this Bernstein Bear looking mofo responds with another FYI, ... Chick-fil-A is also a great place to work. They have good employee benefits. Huh? Did this chunky bowling ball built bitch suggest that I work for a fast food company? And listen, guys, there's nothing wrong with working in the fast food industry. But my last job was in leadership. I was architecting the blueprint for HR strategies that lend to mitigating risk and scaling programs and processes while keeping our company compliant with federal and state laws. But this bitch reduced me to fucking chicken. Get the fuck out of here. And again, it's not hubris. Like, look, if I had to work for anybody in any capacity because I needed to keep income coming into my home or whatever the case may be, damn it, I would do it. But I also have to recognize I had a little bit more to offer, just given my deep experience and diverse skill sets, that I was not about to tread down this road of fast food. I just wasn't, especially because I was not hurting financially, but whatever. Anyway, it was quite clear in that moment. I realized that this isn't my issue. The issue is with him. I believe that he honestly feared that I wanted to do to him what other women wanted to do to him, and that is to be a sugar daddy. And in his case, a sugar bear. But, I let it go. Honestly, I was over it. I responded to his text saying, this isn't going to work, and I just wish you all the best. And that was it. I mean, I haven't heard from him in some time. And it's a good thing that that walking Instapot says nothing to me. The moral of this story is know who you are, what you're looking for, and what you're willing to tolerate before you start dating. Arnold wasn't willing to date an unemployed woman, but he wasn't comfortable with saying it. You know, I'm fine with you not wanting to date me because of my employment status, but why continue along in the dating process if you know deep down inside it bothered you? But just in the way that Arnold didn't have to date me, I could have submitted an application to Chick-fil-A and got a job, and Arnold would have been happy. I mean, either way, I was comfortable with moving forward, but Arnold wasn't. And Arnold wasn't comfortable with moving forward because my employment status was an issue. If it wasn't an issue, he would have never suggested random places to find a job. But maybe that's my perception. That's the way I interpreted our experience. No matter what, the dating journey continues. Tune in next time for more stories and tales by the greatest storyteller.